Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris-Beth. I am the founder of BizGrams and the founder of Empowered Facts as well. So the host and founder, one and the same. I am super excited to be here with you today to talk to you about, the entrepreneurial journey of Larry Hawkins. And he is actually a US-based entrepreneur doing amazing things. So we're very excited. He's our second US entrepreneur. And Larry, good morning. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. How are you?
I am well, blessed and highly favored, and super excited to talk to you and learn about your entrepreneurial journey. So let's dive right in. Tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. Who or what inspired you to get started on your purpose-driven strategic consulting services, which you started?
Well, my dad is a pastor. So I grew up in the church, watching him lead the community and lead the church. So I was always passionate about helping people. Well, as I became a math tutor, I started realizing I was fascinated with how people's brains work, because I would look at a problem, figure out how I would solve it, and then helping this person, they would do it a completely different way. And I was just fascinated. Like, I never would have thought about that. So you've got this passion of electronics and figuring out how people's brains work, which shaped me going into college. I knew I wanted to be involved with people, but I also wanted to do engineering. My original childhood dream was to open my own computer repair shop. So I went to college for computer engineering. Well, then as I'm in college, I'm realizing computer engineering involves you behind the computer doing programming and not so much interacting with people. So what I chose is to switch to electrical engineering, because that gave me the flexibility of electrical engineering work and working with people. Eventually, I ended up choosing a job where it came down between two companies. One company was going to have me doing engineering work on a leadership, like College 2.0 environment. Another job was going to pay me a lot more money, but I was going to be doing traditional engineering work and not being as involved with people. So I chose the less money job because it was more aligned with my passions. That's what got me to National Instruments, now known as NI. I joined their engineering leadership program, which was College 2.0, people fresh out of college, 150 engineers on this floor. After being there for about 5 months, I became a team leader. So I was in charge of 16 of my peers on this entire floor. I'm like, okay, I'm excited. Leadership is what I'm passionate about. Let me see how my team stacks up against the rest of the department. We were last in everything. And I was like, oh, well, I've got to solve this because I'm the leader. So I started shadowing them and realizing they're competent. They know how to do their job. They just weren't motivated. So I took a lot of the key lessons that I got from my dad and from my journey and created a 1-hour training around the idea of building your career around your purpose and your passion, and not just your skill set, because your skill set is a dime a dozen. Anybody can do that. But your purpose and your passion, that's what makes you unique. It's what's going to make you go the extra mile because you're so excited about this. Well, did the training. We did some coaching and development, restructured the team. 5 months later, we went from last in all metrics to first in all metrics. Management came to me, thank you. Management came to me and said, Larry, what did you do? And can you teach everybody else? So I started teaching it around the department. Eventually, other departments started hearing about it. I started teaching it company-wide. And then people would take the course, go home and tell their spouse, hey, I took this course around purpose and passion and figuring out my career. And then that got us to other companies. And that was very organically how Hawkins Development Group came to be. It wasn't, I went into this like, okay, I'm going to make a business out of this. It started with, I have gifts, I have passion, I want to help people. And then everything else organically developed from there.
Talk to us a little bit. What is the message for entrepreneurs as they're thinking about, bringing on people, finding that value alignment and purpose for the team that they're bringing on?
Absolutely. I can share a firsthand example of that because I started this path just because I wanted to help people. Well, along the journey, one of my now business partners, she approached me after I taught a session and she says, you can make a business out of this. And I was like, yeah, whatever, thanks. And I kept going on. Now I had plenty of businesses on my own, just full, minor entrepreneurial pursuits, but I never thought about making this into a business because I was doing it out of the goodness of my heart. But then she had planted the seed and I started to think about, I was like, you know what, let's talk about that. So we had a conversation And one of the foundational things I considered when I was looking at, expanding and making this an actual business was there's parts of owning a business that I just don't want to do. I don't have desire for it. So then the question is, how do I find people who have a desire for those types of things that I don't want to do, but are also aligned with the overall vision of where I'm trying to go? And so as we started to explore that, I was talking with Travis and one of my now business partners. It was like, all right, here's my vision for where I want this potential business to go. Here are the things that I love to do. Here are the things that I don't want to do. Of these things that I don't want to do any of those appeal to you? And are you bought in and do you believe into the overall vision? Because you can find someone who has the skill set for what you want to do. But if they're not bought into the vision, if they can't see the value behind what you're trying to offer to the world, then it's not going to be a good fit in the long term. They'll feel a short-term gap, but eventually the decisions they make, the way they approach issues, the way they pursue potential opportunities are not going to be aligned. So you can't bring someone on board just because they have the skill set. Because if you're trying to build something that lasts, it has to be around the vision, the values. So I asked everyone that we talked about bringing in, even our subcontractors, is what are your thoughts on the idea of purpose? Do you believe in purpose? Do you feel like you found your purpose? Do you have a desire to find your purpose? Those are the type of interview questions we go through. And then eventually we get to the skill set. But if you're not aligned with us on a values and vision standpoint, it's not going to work. And so as you're looking at expanding your team, you've got to be clear in what your vision and your long-term goal for what you're trying to build. You have to be clear in that before anyone else. Because if you're not clear in that, how can you bring in people and rally them around an idea? Because the idea has to be clear and it has to be intentional. And as long as you have those two things aligned, then anyone else that you bring on board, they're going to already fit in naturally. But if they're not aligned to that vision, your culture is going to be disrupted very easily.
So tell us, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment or thing that you're most proud that you've done along your entrepreneurship journey thus far?
My greatest accomplishment actually has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. My greatest accomplishment is going to therapy. Because going to therapy, especially over this past year and a half, has been instrumental in helping me understand myself better, because we go through life just navigating whatever the conditions are that we're presented with, whether that's in our childhood or our friends or our work environment. We're just doing the best with what we have. But my journey for therapy, it started because I realized I was very stressed and anxious. And so I went to my therapist to talk about why am I so stressed? Why am I so anxious? And as we started digging into my triggers and what was causing this to happen, I realized that a lot of the things that I was carrying around tied back to my childhood. There were things that I didn't fully understand or I misunderstood about the way that I was raised. And by digging into that, I was able to start to get to look at things in a new light and being able to free myself of expectations and stress and habits that were unhealthy that I didn't even realize I was doing, because it was just, this is what I do to get by. This is how I'm navigating life. And so for me to complete this journey and be able to look at myself as a new man, honestly, it's completely changed the way I even approach entrepreneurship. It's changed the way that I approach my projects and my activities as I'm building the business, because I'm more in tune and my eyes are open about who I am, what gifts I have, and what I can provide to other people. So the number one thing that really shifted my entire entrepreneurship journey was focusing on me through therapy and doing some much needed healing and work that had been long overdue.
Oh, I'm curious, what would you say is an advice for entrepreneurs to make sure that the things that they're doing is in alignment with their purpose? What tips or advice you have for entrepreneurs in this way?
It goes back to what I was talking about with joy. I found that joy is the litmus test on whether what you're doing you should keep doing or whether what you're doing you should stop. If what you're doing doesn't bring you joy and excitement and happiness and the biggest smile possible, then it's very likely that's not in alignment with who you are. We all have things that we have to do just because it has to be done. But if you have the choice, always choose joy. That's the advice I've been giving everyone. Anytime you've got a variety of choices ahead of you, and all of these are different routes to get you to where you're trying to go, find the route that brings you the most joy. Because as long as you pursue the joy, you'll never go wrong. And you may have in your mind how this journey should go a certain way, but if it doesn't go that way, that's okay. There's no right or wrong, especially if you're pioneering your path. There's no right or wrong. It's you make a choice. The choice leads to an outcome, and then you iterate from there. You pivot from there. It's not this is the wrong choice, I'm a failure. No, you made a choice. It didn't go how you wanted to. You learn from it. What can I learn from this to broaden my perspective on this overall journey? And then how can that inform my future decisions? But always, when in doubt, pursue joy. That is my piece of advice.
Thank you so much again. From our team here at Empowered Facts to your team over at, Purpose Driven Consulting, I just want to send you up with lots of love today, blessing for today and beyond, knowing that the work that you are doing it's so needed in our community. So continue to let your purpose shine through. The impact that you're making is so needed. And I want to say just thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
This has been a blast. Thank you for this opportunity.